Good afternoon. Hello to everyone. Hi, Adrian. Hi, Adi. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Sally. Hi, Gavin. Hi, Suki. How's everyone doing?
Great, how are you?
We're doing good.
Good.
Hi.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna wait for a few more people to log on. I'll give them a few minutes before we crack on with our exciting adventure into books. Hey, DJ Crid. It's Dave as well. How you doing? How did Adrian? Yours is as you're right in the middle. I'm going to start with you.
All right.
How did you come across this Q&A? Was it Hi Benedict? Was it on Facebook?
I think I saw it on Facebook, yeah.
Oh, okay. Was it in one of the groups?
Yeah. It might have been one of the 3P groups, or maybe your personal. I'm not sure.
Okay.
One or the other.
Yeah, it's you know that old quote about hi Linda. That old quote about when you do so much marketing, you kind of got to work out what's working, what isn't. Oh my goodness, Damien Smith's logging on.
Not that guy.
Yeah, I wonder if it's my namesake. I do actually have a namesake.
Mm.
Oh, who's that? That's so weird. You're down as Damien Smith. That's bizarre. How strange. Well, fortunately, we have this this wonderful system on Zoom, which people just add people on all the time. Sue, how are you doing, Sue? I don't know why you're down as Damien. It's so weird.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah, that's Sue.
I'm just literally getting out of my car.
That's how random
I'm
that.
literally getting out of my car. You'll see the dog in a minute. I'm sorry. I'm a bit tight for time today.
No problem. Well, I'm going to mute everyone, then we'll get cracking. So, hi Daniel, how you doing? All the way from Israel. Hey. We've got more people logging on, joining on as we go through. So I'm sure everyone's excited to hear what the news is coming up later. But I wanted to really start by telling you all what you're going to get by going through this. Now, a couple of you, I know Sue's done a book with me before. No one else. Nope. So you're the only one. Actually, someone's still.
Amy, can you hear me, by the way?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. I'm just going to mute everyone just while I do the intro bit. So, just some admin for the next hour and a little bit. I'll try and keep it to an hour as possible, but there's a lot to get through, and I do tend to overrun. That's just the way it goes. There's a few technical bits. We are in a farmhouse in the middle of Shropshire, and quite potentially might drop out of BT at any moment. If I disappear, I will log out and come back in again, but it shouldn't make any difference to you guys. What it will mean is I just have to piece together the video later, and hopefully I'll be able to log back in as well. And we have dogs and cats and sheep and pigs and babies screaming around. So hopefully there won't be too much. I've got my headphones in, so hopefully there won't be too much interference in the background as well. But it is a Q&A, so I do want you guys to participate. And therefore, I'd like you to kind of put your hands up and speak. I'll unmute you then, so we don't go through this muting tennis, unmuting tennis, which tends to happen. But if you just pop your hand up, and then I'll come to whoever I see put their hand up first. And then we'll try and make it as interactive as possible. But we've got a lot of stuff to get through. First question is, how many people here are writing or wanting to write books about the three principles? Hands up. About the three principles or three principles based book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and I think Sally is, and I'm pretty sure Dave is. So, okay, what is? I mean, I had a few of you send in your sheets beforehand, and can anyone guess what they think is the number one reason why you haven't written it yet? Anyone want to have a crack? Put your hand up. Yeah, go on, Daniel.
We haven't written it yet.
No, but what's the reason? What is the reason you haven't written it yet?
Because we haven't written it yet.
Okay, someone else want to have a go. What's the number one reason? Go on, Sue.
Time.
Time!
The excuse of time.
Time was the absolute winner. Hands down. Right. Daniel's shaking his head there. So, here's the thing. okay, with regards to time. Actually, Sue, I'm going to keep you on here because this is great. Because obviously you've done my course before, yeah?
I have.
And you wrote a book.
I did.
Can
And
you
I had a 2.5-year-old
and
at
you had
that
a
time,
2.5-year-old?
and I was working.
Yeah. Can you tell us what was the result of you writing that book?
Oh, okay. So I'm top. I've reached top 15 in project management books on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite fun. When you meet people who haven't written a book, they're really impressed you've written a book. And I've written in loads of magazines.
Yep.
I've had it reviewed by a lot of magazines. That was quite cool. What else has happened? People are just generally, I don't know if anyone else on the call knows me, but people are generally, wow, how did you do that? Like yesterday, someone seemed to think it implied I'd done a load of other things as well, which I hadn't done. But he kind of went, wow, if you've done that, that's amazing. And I thought, okay. So yeah, it's been really cool, actually. Really cool. And I sell about between 1 and 3 copies every day.
Yeah, brilliant. No, good stuff. Thank you very much for that. I would, well, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know me and who I am, the reason I actually started doing a book writing course was completely by accident, totally by accident. As in the way that, you know, this is what life deals up for you. This is how it works all the time, isn't it? Out of everyone who's on the call, who's actually read Do Nothing? Who's read my book Do Nothing? Oh, most people. Has anyone read The Entrepreneur Success Formula? Not so many. 2. Okay, that's because I haven't promoted it. There's a big difference. The reason that I'm even writing a book writing course is because I had no idea how to write a book. And too much knowledge can often prevent you from doing things. So when I knew that I wanted to write a book about the 3 principles, and for anyone who doesn't know the 3 principles are, they're basically an explanation of how our thinking works, which is really kind of helpful considering it's in everything we do. It's when I kind of started to learn about the 3 principles, and I remember going to a Daniel Priestley conference and walking up the steps of the Mermaid Theatre, and because he had said previously on this Key Person of Influence course, if you want to become an authority in your niche, write a book. And I just had that in my head like the whole time going, write a book. Now my background is kind of design. I'm a creative. So to have that absolute knowing that I was going to write a book, but then as I was walking up the steps of the theatre to have the cover downloaded in front of my, like from the Universal Intelligence, it was like, this is your cover, this is the title. And I had no idea what was going to go in it. It was called Do Nothing. And I even like had the big red do and then the nothing on the black cover. And I went home and I designed it. I designed the cover and I printed it out and I popped it on the computer above my computer. And I had heard that Rudyard Kipling used to write 500 words a day. So I thought, well, I can do that. And he's written, you know, dozens of bestsellers. So I thought, well, that's easy. I can do that. 500 words, that's like, you know, 4 or 5 paragraphs. So I woke up half an hour earlier than I would usually the next day and I just started writing. And 3 months later, I had a book. And I remember going to an author's conference and sitting next to a lady, and she said, have you written a book? And I said, yes. And pretty much everyone at this author's conference has written one. And she pulled out her one. It said, how to write a book. And she said, how did you write yours? And I told her the story about writing 500 words a day and only editing that day and then not editing afterwards. And she said, oh, I don't have a chapter in here on that one. I'm going to have to add to it. And it occurred to me that, you know, the best way to write a book is to find your way and do it that way. And I'm actually on my 4th book now. And I would actually have to say that each one's been written differently. But consistency is key. Whatever groove you get into in how you want to write that book, the consistency is key. Now, if you don't have enough time, that's a really lame excuse. That's actually telling me you don't want to write the book enough. Because, you know, if you've got kids and if you've got a business and if you've got, you know, all this stuff going on, life happens, right? Life is constantly happening. But if you actually want to write a book, you would write a book. If someone put a gun to your head and said, you've got, you know, 1 week to write this book or else, you'd write it. You'd probably do it in 3 days. Okay. It's actually possible to write a book in a day. And I'm going to tell you how in one of the ninja tips later. I've got some ninja tips coming up. So if you actually wanted to write it, you'd write it. So that's actually not the reason. The reason that you haven't written your book yet is because you haven't got a good enough reason. Yeah, you haven't had a good enough reason to write it. Because time is an excuse that we give for not writing it. We say it's time's fault, but actually that's not true. In the same way that, you know, you don't not have enough time to go and catch your kid if it runs out into the middle of the road. You know, you do it because it saves his life. If you had to write a book, you would write a book. Now, I had an absolute knowing that I was going to write that book called Do Nothing. And yet I didn't even know what was in it. You know, I didn't even know what it was about. I actually said, as I was walking up the steps, and I turned to Victoria and said, "Oh, I've just got the title of the book." She said, "What is it?" And I said, "It doesn't make any sense." So it's called Do Nothing. And she said, "Oh, that's a good title." So I said, I didn't know what the subtitle was. Couldn't make that bit out. So finding your reason why is actually much more important, because, you know, if I use the example of someone giving up smoking. You know, if you're told that you've got lung cancer, you've got a good why, and it's probably going to happen. Whereas if you don't, then you could just carry on smoking because it's tomorrow. Yeah. Well, and if you want to be around for your kids or your grandkids, that's a good enough why. If you've got to, you know, go out there and get some money in for the HMRC, as I did a few years ago, you've got a good why to go out and do something about it. So your why needs to be consistent with your reason for writing a book. Now, there's a lot of reasons why people write a book. So I've actually got some here. This is on my the book writing course, which I run. Let me just grab the reasons. So, and this is not in any way extensive, so I'm just going to share the screen for a second. So to set yourself up as an authority or expert, that's actually a very good reason why. It was the reason that I started to do nothing, to write Do Nothing. And also because I'd only just been introduced to the 3 principles, and I thought, well, if I write a book about it and interview a bunch of people in the principles, that's going to get my understanding of the principles much, much deeper, and it did massively. To share an idea or just tell a story. You know, there are billions of unwritten bestsellers that will never be written. Billions of ideas, billions of stories that went to the grave without being written down. You know, don't let yours be one of them. As a business card, I would actually say now that if you don't have a book and you're serious about, you know, running your own business, actually, let me just stop the share for a second. Who's an entrepreneur here? Who actually runs their own business? Hands up if you run your own business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd say about half. Okay. Oh, well done, Brayson. Thanks, Sally. Yeah, so if you don't have a book about your business, you're actually missing out. Because, and I'll give you an example. So I was flying first class once, and I sat next to a guy. He was a senior director, and he actually said to me, "What do I do?" And it was a long flight. It was a 7-hour flight back from the States. And so I actually said, "Oh, I've got a book. You can just read this. It'll explain it." Now, 3 hours into the flight, he turned to me and he said, "I need to hire you." Yeah, that's a good business card. Now, we hadn't had a conversation. I'd just given him a book. And after that, I was like, every time I went on a flight, I was taking like loads of books with me. He was like, "Why have you got a load of books with you?" I was like, "I never know who I'm going to meet." You know, first class lounge, you never know. So having that as a business card is actually a really, really smart idea. And I'm sure Sue has found that, you know, giving a book as a business card. It's a really smart thing to do. But it also, this is what's so crucial about this. If you're going to use it for your business, it's a really good percolation of your ideas of your business model. Yeah, it condenses everything that you do, and it puts it into words, and it puts it into format. And it's a really good way to get to more people, right? Writing a book. What's Cullen saying? Better late than never. Just sorting audio. Oh, well done. Thank you, Cullen. Welcome on board. He's actually in France at the moment, and I think he's in a departure lounge or something. So getting a book and actually having that as a distillation of your business is a really, really smart idea. Having said that, as I say, it could be. Let's go back to sharing the screen for a second. Let's move that over here. So yes, it could be. It could just be a really good distillation of your story. So you don't want to go to your grave without telling your story. Now, there are some amazing stories out there. I'm actually helping one lady on a one-to-one basis get her book out there. And it's a fantastic story. I mean, it's like they went on holiday, and on the way back, their next door neighbours who they went on holiday with, the partners swapped. and said, your mummy's going to go and be living with their dad and your dad's going to be, she couldn't make it up. And it was just an amazing story. And she's actually woven that into her career. It's actually about, she's a business coach and about trust and self-worth. So she's written her own story, but it's connected with her business, because, you know, using your book in your career is a really smart thing to do. Yeah. I mean, I would say that Do Nothing has probably brought me in 6 figures in coaching clients, because people still contact me now saying, I read your book, it's changed my life. Can I work with you? To become a speaker. So there's many people now that, and I don't know if Daniel will agree with me, because he runs a business called Get Featured, and he gets people on podcasts. And having a book is almost like a prerequisite now. You know, if you haven't got a book, they're probably thinking, well, are you serious? You know, are you serious about this? But I remember getting an email from a conference recently where literally every single speaker had their book in a little box next to them. It's almost like half of the course really now. And you know, we're not just talking about ebooks or pamphlets, as I call them. You know, someone says, I've written a book, and they turn up at a networking event with a pamphlet. You say, that's not actually a book. That's just a few pages. That's an idea. We'll talk about length in a minute. And heaven forbid to make some money. You know, I've actually made a fair bit of money out of Do Nothing, and that's because I self-published and because I knew what I was doing and I marketed it properly, and I understood how to do that bit. So, someone's not muted. If you're unmuted, can you just check yourself and just mute yourself? So there's someone in the background. Could be if we hear planes in the background, we know it's coming. So I've made a fair bit of money. At one point, I was making sort of $1,500 out of all the I can't see who that is, out of all the royalties that I was getting from that. And you know, that's a fair chunk, and you only need to be selling like 2 or 3 a day on the print, and Kindle does a lot more than that to make that sort of money. To feel alive, you know, it's like actually writing books, and you'll do this once you've written one, you will want to write more. It's actually it's why I'm on my 4th. It's a really, really beautiful way to actually express yourself, and if you can get into a groove of doing it, then you'll just get used to doing it, and it's a really good way to get your ideas out there, to make a dent on the universe. So, you know, there's something that you know that's going to help someone, because something that you know someone else doesn't. Yeah. Right. Okay. I've got 2 more chats here. So, Raphael, could you? Yes. So, thank you for that, Benedict. Could you just pop your on mute? I think he has. That's brilliant. Thanks. And on that basis, you know, change the world for the better. As I said, you know, I still get emails from people every week saying, I've read your book and it's changed my life. And the last one on this one is to leave a legacy. You know, it's to actually have something that you've done, that you've created, which is going to survive you, which is going to be out there, which is, you know, your kids can talk about, your grandkids can talk about. And on that basis, you know, make it decent. So I'm just going to stop the share for a minute and just see who is. Oh yeah, it is Raphael. Okay, I'll just mute you there for a sec. So on that basis, I had some pretty good, again, responses coming through on the pre-sheet, and there were some amazing stories. There's some people out there, and you know, no one's got your story. No one has your that story. No one's ever had your life. And I'm going to do some ninja tips in a minute, but actually, it's selfish to keep it to yourself. If you don't share it with others, right, you are actually preventing other people from potentially having a change in their life, from reading something which is, yep, Sue.
I was just going to say, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the another thing it did for me was at a time when lots of people only knew me as mum. I was working part-time, but, you know, mum at home. When I wrote the book, I gave it to a load of people and said, can you just read it for me, see what you think? And I kind of went up in their estimations without any real effort. So I had quite a few is your pod. Once they'd read the book as well, it was like, I sometimes if I'm going for consultancy work or freelance work, I'll either send them the book before or I just have it on the desk. And they don't even ask me about credibility. They don't ask me about for recommendations. They just go, "I've done all of that. I've had that," because people only knew me as part-time, at home with children, kind of thing. So that was like, in terms of confidence, I needed that at that time.
Yeah,
I would say it saved my sanity at points, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so there's thanks for that, Sue. There's
might be useful for other people.
Thank you. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Was everyone hearing her kind of break up there? Oh, right. No. Okay. Right. So I was just checking it wasn't me, because sometimes the internet goes funny this end. So, and it usually tells me my internet connection is a bit rubbish. Yeah. That's really, really a good point, actually. The funny thing about that is, I wrote Do Nothing 5 years ago. I reread it again recently, and I got more from it this time. So much because my understanding had moved on, and then I was reading it, and it really reinforced the idea that we're here to channel something else. We're here to let that stuff kind of flow through us. So my thinking would be, if you've been tempted to write a book, if your guidance has kind of been pointing you in this direction, it's not you saying that. It's universal intelligence saying, "I want to use you as a vessel. Get your fingers out." Because I'm telling you, the days when I turned up and I thought through what to write, that all came out. And the times when I just showed up, double espresso in tummy, 5:30 in the morning, and I was present, but I was connected, but I wasn't thinking about it. That's the stuff, when I read it again, I go, "Oh my God, this is profound." Now, of course it is, because there's people who've read it and said it's changed their life, but obviously it's difficult, for you to at first you go, "Oh, really, me?" Now I'll share with you guys, actually, there's a Neil Gaiman video. Has anyone seen the Neil Gaiman commencement speech? This is Neil Gaiman, who wrote, Coraline, and does anyone know Neil Gaiman, what he's famous for? Anyone? Hand up if you do. I can't remember. Right, Suki, what's it famous for?
Good Omens.
Sorry?
He wrote Good Omens.
Good Omens, yeah, and he wrote
Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett, yeah, there's some other stuff that he's written. Anyway, he's like a really famous kind of author, and he actually says in this commencement speech, I'll send you the link, it's really, really good. He says he was always expecting people at the door to turn up in white coats with a clipboard saying that he was an imposter, because he just thought, how have I got away with it? It's like, I keep producing this stuff and people keep buying it, and how have I got away with it? And that's kind of how I felt for a while. It's like, people are buying my book. It's like, oh my God. Well, I think the thing is, once you actually, and this is why once you've written one, you just want to write more. Once you kind of get over yourself and realize that it's helped one person, that's enough. Is it, Daniel, you can help me on this. Is there something in the Jewish tradition which says if you help one person, you help humanity?
As if you save one life, it's as if you save.
Yeah, wonderful. And that's it. When I had that first email from someone saying, I was going to commit suicide and I read your book and now I know there's more to life and it stopped me from committing suicide. It's like, whoa, fantastic. That's it. Done. That's it. You have, if you just write down what's inside you and channel it through universal intelligence, that's you doing your job. Okay. 101% says Cullen. Thanks for that. So on that basis, who would like a couple of ninja tips? Who's up for a ninja tip? Okay. So I always, because I obviously run a book writing course, which I'll tell you about in a bit. And, as you know me, it's like I teach the principles, but I also run book writing courses, and also show people how to do marketing as well. The book writing course that I'm launching soon, I always keep it up to date, and I always like to come up with like the newest, freshest stuff. So I thought I'd look at some cool stuff that's out there at the moment. But of course, in doing that, and I've got a number of marketing podcasts and book writing people that I sort of subscribe to. I found some pretty interesting stuff out there. So the number one ninja tip is, if you don't know what to write about, Okay, if you've got an idea of something to write about, but you're not sure about what to write about, the comment sections on other people's books will tell you everything you need to know. I'll give you an example. So, and some of the news I'm going to share in a bit is about a book that I'm co-writing with one of my clients, and it's a book on sales. Okay, so we've basically done some research into the traditional sales, like sales training, and how it works and what people do, and it's very what I would call outside in. It's very kind of like tip and technique orientated, but it actually is very ineffective. And we've done a bit of research on this, and we kind of understand why, because we have this thing called the 3 principles, which kind of describes the direction of how our thinking is, or how our experience is happening through thought. And that explains a lot about why outside in techniques don't work. So we're putting a book together, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, because it's really exciting. But we've actually got most of the content from that, from going into books that are already out there on sales and looking at the low star reviews. Yeah, because you can get what's in it by going to the contents. You get what they're talking about by going to the contents. You go into the comment section and see people that are slagging it off, and it tells you everything that's wrong with that book. Now, you can get everything that's right about that book by either reading it, or I'll tell you another tip in a minute, which came from a professor that I bumped into. But to actually find out what's wrong with it, it's actually some really, really juicy content, because that tells you the stuff that's as yet unanswered. Okay, so that's the ninja tip number 1. If you don't know what to write about, there is some really, really good stuff in there. On that basis, talking about how your book is going to look and feel once it's out there. If you can start to visualize that, start to really connect with that and actually see that for yourself, that gets you really excited. Going back to your why, if you really kind of want a really good, I saw Do Nothing, I printed it out and I put it above my computer, and every day I saw it, that was a really good inspiration for me to sit down and write. Just having that printed out above the screen. Now, that's the way I work, because I come from a graphic design background, but that's a really good why. If you've got it everywhere and you can see it everywhere, it's going to really get you focused on doing the writing, doing the work, sitting down, doing the work. So that's the ninja tip number 1. Ninja tip number 2, most books that are out there are actually only one idea. Yeah. And I kind of discovered this because I did a talk at my daughter's school on entrepreneurship, and there was a professor there who was very knowledgeable about a lot of stuff, and actually he was a professor in entrepreneurship. We went for coffee afterwards, and he just seemed to know about everything. And I said, how do you know about all these things? It's like, you are so knowledgeable. I said, you must read a lot of books. He says, oh, I don't read books. How do you know so much stuff? And he said, I just read the covers. He said, because most books are only one idea. And if you just get that one idea, you don't need to read the book. Now, this was a while back, but actually he's got a good point. And there's actually a website called Juicer. Has anyone heard of it? Juicer. Joosr. And you can actually go on Juicer, and it does a summation of the book in like 5 pages. And it's pretty cool. It's like you can actually get the idea of most books now through you not reading the whole book. Now, of course, if you do want to read the whole book, if it does appeal to you, let's say you read the Juicer version of a 4-hour work week, and it's like, oh, there's definitely more to one thing in this book, then you go out and buy the book. It's a really good way to actually go through the book and actually see if it's right for you. So there's another little tip for you. Just going back a step on the why front. That sounds like some pants, doesn't it? On the on talking about your why, not why fronts. Who's struggling with their why and would like to have because this is obviously it's supposed to be interactive. I could just talk till the cows come home otherwise. Who would like to have some online coaching or some sort of help with their why? Want to pop their hand up? Adi, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Okay.
I've always struggled with it. Always.
Okay. Do you want to just give us a brief kind of summation of what your idea is and where it's come from?
Oh, okay. What for my book?
Yeah.
For the book. Okay. Okay.
If you can.
What do I want? Okay. Yeah. It's is specifically about anxiety and dealing with anxiety in everyday life. So, and particularly in women. Yeah. So that's it.
Wow. Are there any books that other books
Nothing.
out there that have been written about anxiety?
There's an awful lot about other things. So anxiety is usually part of depression or post-traumatic stress, or but it happens with teenagers, big changes. Often they just get anxiety, they just get panic attacks, they get very stressed, they don't trust themselves, they don't think they can cope, and it's all consuming. Instantly it happens. Like, it could happen in the workplace, it could happen at home in their bedroom, and I have yet to find anything that's actually specific for that.
Okay,
I mean, there could be
let me
something
ask
out
you a
there.
very
I
specific
haven't
question
looked at
around
everything.
that.
Okay.
What have you seen that might help them?
It's the 3 principles.
Can you just
With
can you just describe like how that's helped you? Don't describe what the 3 principles are. Just say what you've seen as a result of 3 principles. And
okay, it's just understanding, understanding their thought process, and understanding the actual root of where it comes from and why it happens. Actually changes their whole understanding and the experience of the anxiety in whichever way that presents. And it also works with pain. Well, I used to nurse years ago, and I worked on a surgical ward, and and I'm talking of a long while ago now. It was a gynae ward, so it was a huge turnover. We had 2 groups of ladies. One group of ladies, we told them very little about what was going to happen. Just very much that, there'll be a bit of pain, but you'll have your hysterectomy, and then visiting your sister. So sort of very basic information. They weren't sort of treated badly or anything. But then we had another group of ladies who we spent an hour and a half with, almost like a mini lecture pre-theatre. The night before they went into theatre, and explained literally in minute detail what was going to happen to them. So right from pre-med, having the bath, shaving, all of that, and then going in, what they'll experience when they wake up, if they're sick, what they can ask, what they can have, and everything else. And it was absolutely remarkable. And the ladies that were that had the extra time and was explained to in great, and I mean great detail, and then questions were asked, before they went down. Their recovery was so much. It was so quick. I mean, it was unbelievable. The infection rate was down, and they were actually happier. They felt more secure. So when they went home, they felt much more confident. So the mobility and everything else was again much better. So again, their recovery was much quicker. So chest infections were down, wound infections were down. So all of that. I mean, I'm probably boring people to death, but anyway. So that's
saying real healthcare. I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
it's that understanding of actually understanding the core, the very basic of the beginning, if you like, the very beginning of where it starts.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. If going back a few years when you were struggling with anxiety, if you had read a book about how you didn't have to feel like that, and that resonated with you,
how
much of a gift would that have been for you in that moment?
Oh my God, I just unbelievable. But not only that as well. You see, as a mother, which I am, and the girls are grown up now, but you're also conscious of passing that on. You don't want to pass that on to the children as well. So you're managed. So you can get quite anxious about that. You can get anxious about sort of, oh my God, I hope I didn't pass it on to them by your behaviour or how you see things or how you react to things. So so I mean, it would be an absolute godsend, because actually then you can help them, because actually, again, it happens a lot in teenage years, or even now. It's becoming it's happening in an earlier age group, isn't it, when they're at junior school? But
so after everything you just said, why are you struggling with your why?
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. I just struggle with my thinking.
Well, I think
Yes.
you just do
Okay,
it.
that's fair. That is fair comment. That is fair comment. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a good example. It's like if you know something that's going to help someone, why would you? Don't keep it to yourself. Get get writing. Okay, time for another ninja tip here. Who wants to know how to write a book in one day? No one. Oh, okay. It's a really simple process. So, and this what's really great about this is, has anyone seen John Lamerton's book that's come out recently? Okay, so I'm not actually going to find it, but he wrote this post on Facebook. It was like Elon Musk, Richard Branson, your guys took one hell of a beating, and he got to number one in the business chart with it. And that all came off the back of a conversation I had with him a while back about how you can write a book in a day. Because he set up a number of businesses, multi-million-pound businesses. One multi-million-pound business that he did, it's a betting business, and it crashed at one point. It completely crashed. Google changed its algorithm, and it completely wiped out his entire business overnight. And he came back. Actually, Daniel would be a good person to get on your show. And he came back and he rebuilt the algorithm with lots of other different versions of it, and basically built the business back up from that. And it was the biggest lesson for him that actually failure was like a really good thing, because it made him, innovate and change his business model. And we had a conversation about how he should write the book, and so he did. He just went and wrote the book, and it's now number one in the business chart. And this is how you do it. All you need to do is you need to set some questions, which is going to get you answering, talking about your book. Yeah. So it could be, where were you 5 years ago? What were you thinking? What happened to change that? What was the result of your understanding? You come up with a list of questions that's going to get you talking your story. Yeah, it could be autobiographical, semi-autobiographical, or autobiographical, and it could be about your business. It could be about your experience. It could just be your story. And then what you do is you just record that. You can record it into an iPhone or a dictaphone, and then you put it on somewhere called rev.com, rev.com, and they transcribe at $1 a minute. So if you had like 360 minutes, it's a pretty long book, and we'll talk about book length in a minute. That's going to be about $360. That's going to not going to be a lot. And you can record it and have it transcribed in a day, and then you can have it edited, and you can put the design out onto Fiverr, which is Upwork now, or People Per Hour, and get someone to design the cover, and you can literally have it on CreateSpace in 24 hours. It's a really, really simple process. But you probably want to make it into a better book than that. I mean, actually, his book is a brilliant book, but there obviously that is the way if you need to do it really, really quickly. On the sales fronts, a question that's always asked me is like, how do you actually make into a bestseller? Well, it kind of depends who you talk to, but this is my definition of a bestseller. So in order to hit number one on Amazon, you're going to need to sell between 3,500 and 5,000 copies in 24 hours, right? That's a mixture of print and Kindle. So if you want to get into the top 20 in Amazon, you need to be selling between 3,000 to 4,000 books a day. If you want to get into the top 100, you need to be selling between sort of 750 and 2,000. And then outside of that, it just kind of diminishes, going down and down and down. So to get into the top 10,000 list, you need to be selling 5 to 15 a day, which isn't actually hard to do. But it also depends on which category you pick. Yeah, so this is another ninja tip for you to get into, because there's some categories that are recognized by Amazon more than others. So small business is a really good one. That's actually recognized by Amazon as a really good subcategory. And so to get to be a bestseller in that category is not as hard as to get into the Amazon top 100. Okay, now there are ways of doing that, and I kind of show you how to do that on the course through marketing, but actually really building your tribe before you actually write your book. It's more about building your tribe before you write, so that when you have the book ready, you have a number of readers that are ready to actually give you reviews, buy the book, and actually send you into that chart. Because once you're in there, the algorithms actually recommend your book with other books, and it's a lot easier to stay there once you're up there. So you actually see in the bestseller list, you see a lot of the same books are up there. That's why, because once you get up there, it's actually easy to stay up there, or easier to stay up there. So, and picking your category, there's actually a way you do it, which I walk you through in the course, which is you need to go in and see which books are actually in the top categories are selling, and then it actually tells you on the information further down how many of those are actually selling, so you have a better idea about which categories are right to get into. Now, technically, you only need to be number one in one of the subcategories to be a bestseller, technically. And it's not hard to do that. I've done that with Entrepreneur Success Formula. I've done it with Do Nothing. So, and I say there are ways of doing that, fairly easy ways of doing that. Okay, so another ninja tip. Okay, who wants to know how to overcome writer's block? Does anyone have writer's block? Yeah, a few people nodding their heads. Okay, well, we've talked about one already, which is, your why needs to be strong enough. Okay, so if you've got a good reason to write the book, deadlines are another really, really good way to get over writer's block. When I wrote Entrepreneur Success Formula, I agreed with Nigel Botterill, who I was working with at the time. Oh, you got to go, Sally. Yeah, bye. That's
Bye.
okay, no worries. Check out the recording. It's going to be available. Yeah. So I actually said to Nigel, can I launch it on stage at the conference where Michael Gerber is speaking? Has anyone read the E-Myth? E-Myth Revisited, E-Myth? Yeah, so Michael Gerber was speaking on stage at this conference, and I wanted to launch the book, and it was in a few months' time. So he agreed. So I had a deadline that was set in stone. That wasn't going anywhere, and Michael Gerber wasn't going anywhere, and I'd agreed to get it written. So I had no choice but to sit down every day and write the book. There is another way to overcome writer's block. If you can sit down every day and just start writing, yeah. So you write, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I guarantee you your brain will give you something if you write that 3 times. It won't want to write that again, so it will give you something. Universal intelligence will kick in and give you something to write if you write that 3 times. I nearly got to the end of it the 3rd one once. That was as close as I ever got to it. But again, here's the thing. To get into a rhythm is actually the hardest thing, but the most beneficial thing you can do. And I always say to people, it's a really good idea to find a place that you feel comfortable writing. I used to find writing in coffee shops really comfortable. I don't know why. I liked the hustle and bustle. Some people like silence. That's not for me. Having said that, with the World Peace Equation, I found that actually sitting in silence was better. So there is one tried and tested method to write your book. Find the way that works for you and go with that. And that could be different every time. So I've had that question so many times asked. What's the process for writing a book? There is one. It's finding the one that works for you with that book and sticking to it. And then consistency. Yeah. So being consistent and getting into a rhythm, getting into a groove, just finding what works for you. I had one lady that I helped write a book, and she wanted to be outdoors. So her thing was about being outdoors in nature. And she tried doing it indoors on computers, wasn't working. So she went outside with a pen, and it was winter, and she started writing in nature. And she found that actually the sparser the area that she was in, the better she wrote. So she would go to open fields, middle of nowhere, walk for miles, sit in a field like nothing around, and that was the place where she wrote best. So it's about finding what works for you and going with that book, because the next one might be different, and the next one might be different, the next one might be different. I know Roald Dahl wrote the same way every time. He used to sit in his hut and write in that hut. But it's whatever works for you. So, okay, so who wants another ninja tip? Who wants to do a TED Talk? Anyone want to do a TED Talk? 1, 2, 3. Does anyone not know what TED Talks are? Okay, good. Just checking. I used to do the workshops, the Entrepreneur Circle, and occasionally a little hand would go up. What's a TED Talk? TED.com. Your life will change. So this is how I got mine, and I've subsequently found out another couple of ways you can get a TED Talk. Having a book is a really good start, because when I got my TED Talk, I actually, the story was that Victoria and I were watching Dragon's Den, and we were watching a guy on Dragon's Den pitching for liquid peanut butter, which at the time we were being incredibly healthy and eating, lots of things that we were dipping or trying to dip in peanut butter. And liquid peanut butter was a genius idea for us. But the Dragons didn't think so. They thought it was a rubbish idea. But we immediately said, we want some of that. So we got on and we ordered some. Now, the poor guy, if anyone knows about Dragon's Den, the only reason they go on Dragon's Den is to get publicity, right? They don't go on for the money, they go on for the publicity. That's the only reason they do it. And we know that because we've had people that have been on Dragon's Den and spoken with dragons, we even know dragons. So that's why they do it. Most of the deals fall through with due diligence. But the publicity is mad. It's crazy, and it's free. It's free publicity. So this poor guy, I mean, he was running the business, and obviously his ordering process wasn't very good because loads of people had ordered this liquid peanut butter, and 2 weeks later, we still hadn't had any. So I sent an email saying, please, can we have our peanut butter? And in my signature, there was a link to my book. He happened to be the curator of TEDx Square Mile, which was the city TEDx. And being inquisitive, clicked on the link, bought the book, read it, and then invited me to speak. So one way to get a TED Talk is to find the curators of all the TED Talks and befriend them and have something, because actually if you go on the TED site, there's a TEDx link and it will tell you about all of the TED Talks that are coming up, and they have themes and then they open up for speakers at certain times. So if you want to be a speaker, you've got to have a really good application, and they tend to have people that are local only as well. But if you know the curator before it opens, it's a much better way to do it. So that's a ninja tip on how you can get a TED Talk. Okay, what else have we got here? So, okay, so another little ninja tip here. So one of the things I do is on the book writing course is apart from the accountability, because the great thing is about the 90-day course that I run is it really holds people accountable. You know, we have a deadline. And you know you have to turn up with a manuscript on the end of that deadline. If we agree to it, you have to have a certain word count per week. Now, some people really like that, and other people don't, because they like to do all the thinking bit first and then write in one block. But if you're someone that likes to do the consistency, we can actually agree on the word count up front. And if you don't hand it in on time, you get 3 strikes and out. So you have to actually, you know, put the wordage in each week, and I hold you accountable. And I'm very good at holding people accountable. A professional ass kicker, as someone called me yesterday. Aren't I, Benedict? And Edie and Gavin. So yes, you need to do the work. So a couple of really good ninja tips here about how to build your tribe prior to actually launching the book. Because getting your tribe actually interested and attracted to your content is a really good way to do 2 things. First of all, it's a really good way to make sure that when you launch, you've got some eager readers ready to read the book and give you reviews. Jamie Smart did this brilliantly. The way he did it was when he wrote the book Clarity, he actually released each chapter to his list and got feedback as he wrote the book. So every week he needed to write a chapter, accountability. Then he got feedback from the people reading it. That's a really good idea. So he actually also had a deadline, and he was actually being published by a publisher. So that's a really good way to get the accountability and get your tribe. Now, you can do it much easier than that. You can create a Facebook group or a fan page based around your book, and you can start drip feeding content to people on Facebook, getting people's comments, getting people's feedback, getting people interested, perhaps even getting people's stories. Yeah, so getting other people's stories about anxiety, you know, maybe how it's helped them, and actually getting content for your book based around using social media. If you're doing something for kids, don't use Facebook. They're not on Facebook. If you mention Facebook to anyone under the age of sort of, I don't know, 18 or 19, they'll laugh at you. It's like, Facebook? Really? Seriously? You still on that thing? So Snapchat, you know, WhatsApp, whatever else they're on these days. So just find out, again, it's understanding your kind of customers going forward. So what else have we got? So, and the other really good one is to connect with influencers in your subject matter. Okay. So connect with influencers. People are out there who are doing, who have podcasts. You know, Daniel runs a podcast. I run a podcast. There's a lot more people running podcasts nowadays. Daniel, how many listeners have you had now? You just hit a massive target, didn't you?
I'm about to hit 100,000.
100,000 listeners. There you go. Daniel's very well connected, by the way. This is why he's got a business called Get Featured. So well done. I mean, I hit 5,000 the other day, and I was quite happy with that. So You can start on my podcast and then, go up to the pros. So connecting with influencers is a really smart thing to do. There's this thing called blog tours, so you can actually get bloggers to write about your book and get it featured. There's something which I used to talk about, which I don't talk about so much anymore, which is the Kindle Direct publishing, the KDP Select. And that's if you just go on KDP Select, you can't put it out on the Apple format, iBooks. And they have it for 90 days, but you have 5 or 6 days within that time where you can offer it for free. Now, that used to be really smart, but iBooks is bringing on over 1 million readers every single week now, right? So actually not having it on KDP Select and putting it out on iBooks and other formats as well is much, much better. 5,000, great, you got started. I did, and I'm up to episode 23 as well, which means consistency. Danny and I talked about that. It's all about consistency, yeah? So on that basis, I'm just going to kind of show you the course that I'm running, which I'm actually launching in the beginning of August. And let me just share my screen with you guys, because again, what I like to do is I like to get people doing the stuff. I like to get people writing the book. Yeah, so I'm very good at getting people accountable, and so I run a book writing course. So this will be, I think, my 14th time I've run this now, all in all, which is quite a few, and I've had quite a few bestsellers out as a result. And so this is what I run on the course. So you have a pre-launch webinar, which is all about your why, private one-to-one session with me to make sure that your why is connected, and you just got an example of how I did that with AD. Fortnightly live accountability coaching, and we have a book club check-in via Zoom conference calls where we feedback on each other's progress. I do a weekly recorded webinar, and I'm going to show you what's in all of those, because it's all about marketing and building your tribe and understanding your readers and all that sort of stuff. We have a private Facebook group where we have like-minded authors which help each other. We do daily motivation, so I send you something to your inbox every single day which is going to motivate you. And I also do Facebook Lives in the group as well, weekly Facebook Lives. And a flaming kick up the mindset, as one of my clients said. If you agree to it, if you don't, we need to have a minimum word count from you, or you get booted off the course with no refund. So hopefully that's enough to kick up the mindset. This is what you get in the pre-launch webinar. So it's basically some of the stuff we've talked about today, but in more detail. So why would you actually want to write a book? How to go about writing it, writer's block, how to edit and organize your book, how to define your target market, some things to consider for the bestsellers, how to decide on titles that work. That's a really good bit. Why the design needs to be considered now, why deadlines matter, and how to write your book without even writing your book. You don't even have to write your book. You can get someone else to do it for you. And in the webinars, we talk about how to get readers before you finish your book, and we talk about bloggers. We do the self-publishing checklist. We talk about KDP Select and iBooks. We've got marketing special guest interviews, and actually we've got a publisher that comes on and does that. We've got someone to talk about audiobooks. We get to talk about testimonials and about how you can get those up front. We talk about how to produce your book, how to get self-published or how to get published. We talk about editing, copywriting, proofreading, how to get the right publicity. That's massive. That's a huge one. And then we talk about the professional author mindset, because once you do this, you'll want to do it again and again and again. So that's what you get on the course. Now, the big news that I wanted to talk about, which is actually very simple, is I've been doing this course. A couple of you are on it, on the how to set up and become a transformative or 3 principles coach in 90 days. And the reason I did that course is because I've got a client who I'm doing a walkthrough in exactly how I do it. So from scratch, I'm actually showing you all the way that, because information's okay, but actually getting you to do the stuff, that's what's most important. And so I've got this, I'm using him as an example, and I'm doing literally live walkthroughs with exactly how he's actually doing it, how he's actually setting up as a 3 principles coach. He's actually an electrician at the moment, so that's kind of fun. Hold on, let me just grab this. So just to give you an example, this morning, because we're going to be the stuff that we're doing is as a 3 principles coach. Writing a book is part of it. So this morning he agreed that for this course coming up, not only are you going to get all that stuff that I've just talked about, all the webinars, the accountability, the one-to-one stuff, the group coaching and all that sort of stuff, but I'm actually going to show you how we're doing it. It's going to be a 90-day Me and him are writing this book, and I'm going to be, again, recording how we do all the stuff, right? So I'm actually going to walk you through how we're getting a bestseller ourselves. So even if it's all very well me showing you and giving you the information, but I'm actually going to show you exactly how we're going to do it, right? So we're going to be doing the connecting thing. We're going to be, finding the right people in the right areas. It's a book about sales. And so we're already putting the feelers out. As I told you how we did the thing with the comments, that's going to be part of it. And we're going to be doing interviews with him, showing you how we actually do it. And just to give you an example, this is the book cover that I designed this morning. Let me just share the screen again. So this is the book cover that I designed this morning. And this is the title. It's called Sales DNA, Revealing the Hidden Code Behind Winning Sales Performance. Now, it's going to be a 3 principles book. It's actually a lot of the 3 principles stuff that I do with businesses, and Franco's done with businesses. But just to give you an example, this is the book that we're going to be writing in 90 days on this course and actually walking through how we do it. And this cover I did this morning. Just to give you an example of cover prices, right? These are some of the prices that other book writing courses will charge you for doing covers. So, they're a lot of money, $3,000, $2,500, and it's a lot of money. But what I do in my course is I offer 2 options. The first option is very simple. You just get participation in the group calls, you get lifetime access to all the tutorials, you get access to the private author group, and you get daily minute motivation. And I'll show you how much that is in a minute. The option 2 is the one where I can only do 10 of these per group. And I've already got 3 of these. 3 people have signed up for this already. The option 2, which is the live participation plus coaching in the group conference calls, plus lifetime access to all the recordings, lifetime access to all the webinars, lifetime access to the Facebook group. You get the daily motivation and you get the Facebook lives. You get the pre-course webinar on your why. You get the one-to-one coaching session with me. You get the full accountability in the word count, unlimited email support, emergency coaching session, bespoke media release to amplify your message, exclusive introductions to a speaker agency that I do work, joint venture with. But I will also do your cover and your inside. I will upload it to CreateSpace and KDP. I will even design your Facebook page and graphic, and you get a VIP invitation to the full day event. If you sign up to do the course. Now, because everybody knows I like to be crazily good value on these things, this is the current early bird price, $149. Yeah, and if you choose option 2, it's $749. Have we got any questions? Daniel, are you okay for me to say about you on the course?
Hey, whatever you want, Damien.
Okay. Daniel's one of the ones who's doing it. So I'm doing his book. So he's one of them who's already on it. So thanks for that. And 2 other people who are not on this call or are already doing it as well. But I can only do the design stuff for 10 people. And I say that this is I can actually show you some examples of other covers I've done as well. What I would suggest with the cover in the Facebook group is that and this, again, I actually run through this in one of the webinars. There's really simple things you can do up front to get a really good idea. Benedict says, if you don't have a large tribe, it's better to wait until you get it. I'll tell you about that in a sec. There's really good things that you can do to make sure that your book stands out. And I'm really good at this. I'm getting really good at doing covers which stand out, because they need to stand out in Amazon in a small way. And what I actually do is I get people to get their covers printed out, put it onto a book and take it into a bookshop and put it in bookshops, and then photograph it in bookshops at the top of the bestseller. That's another really good way to get that kind of real feeling behind it. It's like, this book's going to be a bestseller. I can even put New York Times bestseller on it if you want. I'm happy to do that if it's going to get you really fired up writing it. So yes, Benedict says, if you don't have a large tribe, is it better to wait until you get it? Here's the thing about tribes. By the way, if you want to get down the published route, there are ways of doing it. There are a lot more publishers now that work almost like book midwives. Okay, they don't take the royalties, they don't take the publishing rights so much from you. And what they do is they help you get a bigger marketplace, because most publishers don't actually care about your book. Right? They don't care about the idea behind it. They don't care anything about your book. They only care about how many people you've got as followers. Right? So what they usually do is get you to, if your second book comes out, that's when they'll be more interested. But the first thing they'll say to you is, how many followers have you got? And are you engaging with them? So it depends what you're doing it for. As I say, I'm helping a lady at the moment on a one-to-one basis who's writing her book, because she's writing it for a conference which she's putting on, and there's 80 people at the conference, and she wants it for those 80 people. Right? And she's paying me on a one-to-one basis to help her get that book out. Now, that's the £4,000 program that we're doing. This is a group program. I even said to her, it's like, just do the group program. She said, no, I want to work one-to-one with you, and I want to do it specifically with you. Fine, I could do that. So she's doing it for 80 people, right? Now, it's a lovely gift for those 80 people. And in fact, we're doing some pretty cool stuff with the cover, we're writing it well in advance, so we're making it brilliant. It's just going to be an incredible book. So it actually depends what you're doing it for. If it's for a business card, right, you don't need an audience. Yeah, you just need a really well-designed and well-thought-through book, which is a distillation of your business or your idea, to hand to people in first-class lounges and whenever you meet people and go to conferences. That's what you need it for. If you want to sell it to a lot of people, if you want to make lots of money out of it, it's very different. Yeah, you probably do need more of an audience. But again, it depends why you're doing it. So can I just ask you, what's your second book about? Because obviously you've got the bug, you're coming back for more.
It's completely different. It's completely, so my first book is about being a first-time manager in professional services. My second book, the only theme is about transitions, and I'm the mother of a 5-year-old. He's just finished reception, and that's been a real transition, because childcare changes, as I'm sure loads of people on the call know, and really, really stupid questions that you never want to ask are never written down. So you muddle through, I think, your first year. There's an emotional cycle of change, because obviously your little tiny one is sort of walking into this big school on their own. But there's also just really stupid questions that no one ever answers. Or you don't want to ask, like, how many uniforms do I need if I'm a working mum? Because I bought 2 and I can't wash them fast enough. And so there's like nuggets in there like that. Because at our school, we've had loads of parents going, oh my word, I'm out of my depth. And you think, this is not hard. Someone just needs to write this stuff down, and how to deal with arguments about tights in the morning, and stuff like that. And I just think there's an emotional side to it, but there's also the practical stuff that you're too afraid to ask. And I'm coming straight out of that now, and I thought I'm going to capture it all and share it as a gift. Really.
Brilliant. I love it. Well, there you go. So you don't need a huge audience for that either. So that's awesome.
No.
Thank you very much. Great. Well, listen, I'm going to share here's the link for that, and say you can only get it from this podcast. So, from this Q&A. So if you want to take up that $5.99 offer, it is only available through that link, and you can't get it from the website. So make a note of it. And that offer is open for 24 hours. And then I will be promoting the early bird price of $749 to the general public. For the rest, and as I say, there are only 7 more spaces available for that one-to-one graphic design offer. Go on, Sue.
The only thing I was going to say is probably everyone on this call is going to get that comment from that person, and I had those comments from those people that went, "What, you're writing a book?" Or my brother, my accountant said, "My brother wrote a book and he sold 1. You are wasting your time." That's my accountant said that to me. And my one of my best friends went, "How's your little book project going?" In inverted commas.
Yeah, but
and now they've gone really quiet. So if you get people like that, just ignore them.
I love it.
And listen to Damien.
Oh, thanks, Sue. I love you.
That's right.
Length of book. Yeah, Kate says length of book. Okay, so it depends. Raphael had to go. It depends very much on what you're doing it for. And I always use the example of a book called Rework by the guys who created Basecamp. It's a book which started out much longer, and they actually cut it down. It's almost like a reference manual now, where you can just like dip in and out. It's kind of like got really good quotes in there. That's less than 20,000 words right now, but it looks like a proper book. What I would suggest as a rule of thumb is most kind of big novels tend to be 80 to 100,000. Most non-fiction books tend to be under 70 or 80,000, because don't forget, it's also the amount of time that it takes to read it. Now, once you get above sort of 20 to 30,000 words, you're starting to talk about a decent book. What you don't want to do, and here's the number one rule, you don't want to waffle. Right? There's nothing worse than reading a book with just stuff that's made up to make the extra wordage. You're better off cutting it all out and making it a reference book. One of my favorite books, and I know a couple of other people have said it, is The Missing Link by Sid Banks. There's probably about, 1,000 words in there maximum. And it's one of the most powerful books of all time. So you don't have to write loads. And you don't just want to be writing for the sake of writing. Which it comes back to, again, the letting it flow through you. That's the stuff that you'll look at. And when you get to the editing stage, you'll go, oh my God, did I write that? Go on, Kate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was laughing to myself about your comment about people handing out leaflets, like to you, that's not a book.
A pamphlet.
And I was just reflecting on, I know Mary Schiller, I don't know if you know her, but she's written
Yes.
a lot of books recently, and they're all quite short. I haven't read any, but she tells me they're short. And I just wondered how you see that, because to me, that's more, it's not a leaflet, but they're short books. I'm sure they're under 20 to 30,000. I don't know.
Yeah, they are.
But
She sells them as ebooks. I don't think she puts them on CreateSpace.
And you're talking about physical books.
Yeah,
Yes.
Again, but it depends what you're doing it for. If you're writing a load of Kindle books, a load of ebooks, then it's actually, that's fine. You can do that. But you can't use those as a business card. You can't take them to conferences.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She could put hers together in a book. Yeah, so maybe 4 short stories.
Yeah.
There's no way and there's loads of ways around it. There's loads of ways you can actually do it. But at the end of the day, the most important thing, hopefully, that you've got from this Q&A is that, if you've got that nagging thing in your head which says, because I had that before I even went to the Daniel Priestley conference. It was like, you're going to be writing a book soon. And I was like, I can't write. That's the other thing. Having that fear of not being able to write. Yeah, because like the most I'd written in all my life was my signature and captions to pictures. Because I was a designer. Yeah, I was a graphic designer. And I thought, who am I to write anything? Yeah. So there I was, just channeling this stuff and going, this is actually quite good. Now, the worst thing I've actually seen, right, from people that have been on the course, there's only been a couple. There's probably about three people who've actually written, and they can't write. I mean, they really can't write. And I'm really clear with them. I'm just saying that you need to get your ideas down. You need to get someone else to write this book for you, because otherwise it's just going to be impossible. Or you need to go on book writing courses or whatever to learn how to write. But most people, when I did the book writing course at the Entrepreneur Circle, I had a room full of 24 people once, and I got everyone to write their first sentence in the first paragraph. And barring one person, everyone's was incredible. Most people think they can't write, but actually your voice, I mean, Gavin's a really good example. He's written me emails, which I'm like, oh my God, this is a masterpiece. Haven't you, Gavin? So it's like, people think they can't write, but you've just got to try. You've got to sit down, you've got to try it. Far away.
No, I just wanted to know when the course begins.
Begins the first week of August.
August. Okay. And would you be critiquing book covers if we come up with something?
Yeah,
you
get someone else to do it yourself, and I will absolutely be, because I was an art director for 18 years. So yes, that will be part of it.
Okay.
And the other thing is, there is actually a deadline date as well. So you'll see on the webpage that I've picked November where is it? Has it gone? November the 2nd, 2017 will be the day where we turn up with our manuscripts. So that date is going to be essentially the deadline. That gives us the 90 days, gives us a little bit of start time. Will I suggest editors? Absolutely. I've got a bunch of editors and copywriters. Any nuggets for children's books? Children's books are really hard. Okay, storybooks that would be read by parents. Yeah, it's a really hard area to get right, and it's a really hard area to get into. If you want to be published, okay, this is it. If you can do self-publishing, it's not so bad. If you want to be published as a children's writer, it's almost like kind of forget it. Because the amount of submissions they get on a daily basis. I mean, we're talking hundreds of submissions they get on a daily basis in book publishers. So forget it. Whereas if you self-publish and then if you think about 90 Shades of Grey, blimey, so upgraded. 50 Shades of Grey started out as a blog post on the Twilight film. So, you know, it's like that was never intended to be a book, but it got a following, and that's how it became a really badly written book, which has got a huge following. Has anyone actually read it? It's like, because I had all this buzz about it, and you just read it and think, this is supposed to be amazing. And then, of course, then you see the film, and it's even worse. Oh, it's so embarrassing. I took Victoria to see that on Valentine's Day, thinking that it was like a film about love. I didn't know. It was so embarrassing. It was one of the worst things I've ever done, apart from buying her racquetball rackets for her birthday once. That was another embarrassing thing. Maybe I should write a book about like embarrassing things that I've done with Victoria. Anyway, will you redo the offer if I join the next one? I don't know if I'm doing another one. I don't actually know if I'm going to do another one. And the reason for that is that the sales workshops and the work that we're doing based on the book that we're writing has already got enough traction that I really don't know if I'm going to have enough time. And if I do, it probably won't be for another year. So, and it probably won't be at that price. So probably not, no, I'm afraid. But you never know, might do. Okay, any other questions before we sign off? Have I answered all the questions? Have I said down everything that I kind of laid out? Is there any other questions from anyone? Hopefully I'm sort of fairly clear on the offer that I'm doing. Okay, well that just leaves it for me to say thank you very much for being with us. Sorry I couldn't keep it to an hour. It's an hour and a quarter. Oh, Daniel's got one more question. So hi Daniel.
Hey Damien, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to throw something in there just
go on. And I've got a question from Suki as well.
So my book's actually going to be called The Self-Help Addict, which is interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah, the whole premise for the book is that people pretty much consume a lot. They like read a lot of books, and they listen to a lot of podcasts, or they watch a lot of YouTube videos, and they go to seminars and all that, and ultimately they just have nothing for themselves. They're just consuming with a lot of information, and that's why I started my podcast show. I wanted to be able to say, look what I've done, and I think this is an incredible opportunity for those of you. Damien hasn't asked me to say this. I'm just saying this purely I really like what Damien's doing. I love Damien as a friend, and the reason why I'm doing this is I've had this book in my head for like 10 years. I've basically been pregnant with it, and I don't want to give birth to it because it just seems so painful. And I just need someone to just rip it out of me, or help me push it out, I should say. You can't really rip. But I would just say for those of you like sitting on the fence, just ask yourself the question is, do you want to be a consumer or a producer? That the fact that when you leave this world, will there be something that your grandchildren, your children, my great-grandmother wrote this, or my great-grandfather?
Brilliant. Thanks, Daniel. Really appreciate that. And I didn't ask you to say it. Thank you for that. Suki was saying, what happens if you don't complete in 90 days? Has anyone actually had a baby? Has anyone had a baby? Right. Do they wait a few days, give or take? Yeah. This is what we're now having. We're giving birth to your book. It's not waiting. Now, on a more serious note, you will have something at the end of those 90 days. Right now, if you look at the picture on the top of the page, that picture, everyone brought a manuscript. Let's say half of those manuscripts were literally just kind of printed out from a printer. Right, they were what they had, and it was a darn sight more than nothing. So, at the end of the 90 days, if you haven't finished it, you'll be a long way to completing it. So even if you haven't actually finished it, you will have something of significance to work with. And I have actually had a couple of people come back on another course because they wanted to spend more time really getting, and Nick Bettini is actually an example of this. He came on the last course, and he's got something that is so valuable now that he wants to then spend a little bit more time than just the 90 days really crafting it. And some people might have seen him on Facebook. He's getting a real tribe based around his book now, and some really key people giving him testimonials. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. And even if you don't join the either option, because don't forget the option 1 is the much cheaper one where you can actually get the information, but the option 2 is the juicy one where I kind of like really get you to birth your book. Then hopefully you'll be part of the next group in one way or the other. And thank you for sharing this time with us. And whatever you choose to do, I hope you get it out there, because it's time to do it. Brilliant. Thanks everyone for taking part. Appreciate it. And the link's available for 24 hours as well. Great. Thanks guys. Bye everyone. Bye.